Yo, yo, yo. What up, people of the internets? We are back. This is the Outside the Box podcast. I am Jacques Slade. I am the ringleader. I am the bad influence. I am the one that points us in the wrong direction. But obviously, this show couldn't be what it is if it was just me telling people to go the wrong way and to do the wrong things. That's why we have the two good people, the two intelligent, the two stars, the two shining lights of the Outside the Box podcast, Nick and Tiffany. Nick, tell them where they can find you.
Nick Engvall, you can find me on all the platforms, NickEngvall, and sneakerhistory.com. But I'm really just here for the relationship advice, which I think we're going to get to later. So I guess, Tiffany, go ahead and introduce yourself.
I'm Tiffany Beers, and you can find me at Tiffany Beers, B as in boy, EERS, on Instagram and YouTube. Finally, some relationship advice. I can't wait.
Yes. Yeah, we're leveling up. I don't know if you guys have been listening for a long time, but relationship advice is really the goal of this whole podcast. Like, it has nothing to do with sneakers. We're here because we want to bring people together. And we're going to talk about that a little later. But to kick off the show today, we're going to start with one of the players that I believe could have been one of the greatest players of the game, but because of injuries, never really got to get to his full potential. The legend, in my mind, Grant Hill. He has just inked a lifetime deal with Fila, and I'm happy that Fila is actually making this move. So for those that don't know about Grant Hill, he's one of the best in the game. He's a part of the Basketball Hall of Fame. And Fila, back in the day, was a big part of the basketball world. There are plenty of pop culture references that I'm sure Nick Engvall can spill on you about when Fila was a bigger part of basketball and was taking on some of the big guys. But for me personally, I'm just going to say it's a great move for Fila. I think they're doing a good move by signing Hill to a lifetime deal and almost showing a respect for his legacy in the game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think this is something, personally I've wanted to see all the brands do with their legacy athletes. I think that part of, the nostalgic effort of all the marketing teams bringing these and creative teams bringing these shoes back to the, to the market without the player attached to it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, right? There's just not a lot of energy,
right.
and it's different for, say, an Air Max, or where the shoe wasn't necessarily attached to one person, but when you have a shoe that's carried, it's literally has a person's name in the title of the shoe, because that was made for them or by them or with them and the designers. It's just good to see them doing that. And I think, I applaud Fila for doing that. I think that at that time, right now they don't have quite the market share that they had back in the 90s. But,
right.
I think one of the coolest stories I ever heard about that whole Grant Hill, experience or whatever was, I'm a big Tupac fan, and Tupac wore one of the Grant Hill shoes on his All Eyes on Me album, on the insert for the CD. And those shoes, nowadays that would be something where somebody's paid to wear that. And back then, the story, I'm going to mess it up probably, but Grant Hill basically liked the music, or there was some sort of connection, friend of a friend kind of thing, and just sent the pair, to Tupac to hopefully, see if he liked the shoes. And it wasn't like, hey, wear these on your album cover type thing. He just rocked with the shoes and put them in the album, And I think that's like such a natural thing that can't occur nowadays. That
yeah,
it's kind of, this is kind of going back to those roots in a sense, because you get to bring the athlete there. The athlete's going to have friends that he's made along the way in his career to be able to share this new experience with and bring new people to the brand, because there's obviously a lot of stuff. I mean, Grant Hill's probably the number one in terms of basketball, but there's Jamal Mashburn and like the Fila tennis before the basketball kicked off for them. There's a whole lot of stuff on the racing side of things with I think Ferrari for a long time, and I want to say they did some BMW stuff for a while. It's just been a long time thing for them, but a lot of people probably don't know that now, and this hopefully will kind of open some eyes to seeing what the brand has done, and they can tell some cool stories behind it.
I love these sneaker stories that you don't really hear a lot about these days. And reading through the article, it's over on ESPN, by the way, guys. We'll put a link to it down in the description, hopefully, if I remember, but I probably won't, so don't hold me to that. The Fila is going to approach it as strictly retros. They're not trying to get back into the performance basketball market. It's more of just retroing his shoe, which is pretty cool. And reading through a little more, they say that the Grant Hill 2 model sold about $135 million back when it was released back in the 95-96 season, or 94-95 season. And another fun fact about this whole like Fila thing is that the GH2, which was probably the best Fila shoe, I think, was penned by David Race, Racy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say Race, Raysse, who went on to found brand Black, and now designs Lonzo Ball's ZO2 signature shoe in partnership with Big Baller Brand. So that's very, very interesting sort of tie-in back to the past and bringing it to the future with Lonzo tapping into Grant Hill in a sense, which is a pretty cool thing. So, Tiffany, just quickly, were you into like the performance like basketball market back then?
No, I mean, not at all. The only way I'm familiar with it is because my husband used to design for Fila, and where I thought they were going was actually what made sense to me was actually they had a great chemistry between Grant Hill and the designer, and they were able to produce a product that resonated with consumers. So I thought they were actually going to take it down a place where Grant helped them maybe communicate with athletes a little better to really drive product, because whatever synergy they had with Grant was like, it was working. And I think that's hard to find. And I think he knows footwear. He knows the sport. He could really help them actually get in performance again, I think. So I'd be shocked if they stayed in retro, actually.
Yeah, that's a great idea, having him. And he is a respected and revered athlete. And I think he would have some sway with the athletes of today. With that sort of conversation, especially if Fila is looking to really get back into it. We see what Puma is doing and how aggressive they are being, and the opportunity is there. For a lot of these brands back then in the 90s, it was really an open field for getting in. Like, it wasn't just Nike and Adidas like it is today. Back then, it was, Puma, it was And One really had a big presence back then. And then Nike had obviously their presence, and Adidas had a presence. So there were a ton of different options. And for the most part, they were all on a pretty level playing field. There was no like clear cut, this is number one. Maybe you could say Jordan just because of his mystique, but everything else seemed to be pretty level on a pretty level playing field back then. So it's interesting to see, this goes to show like the ups and downs of the market and how cyclical the market is. And, now we have brands like Puma trying to get back into the mix, and One doing some stuff to kind of get back into the mix. And obviously, what we'll talk about a little later, New Balance getting back in the mix. So there's a ton of different options out there. So for those out there listening that only think that it's only a Nike and Adidas thing, you definitely should pay attention to what's going on around you, because there's a lot more options out there. And I think you'd be very surprised with how good some of those products are as well.
I totally agree. And I think that, there were so many brands that get totally forgotten, like there were like Avia or whatever it was with like, Clyde Drexler's signature shoe, and Converse was making shoes for like Larry Johnson and Kevin Johnson. And I think what like all of those brands had really successful runs making footwear. And I think that there's a weird perception around the sneaker market right now that if a shoe doesn't sell out, that means that it wasn't successful. But in reality, that's not the actual like measurement of success for a lot of companies, right? Of course, you would love to have all of your shoes sell out, and if you can sell out a shoe in 5 minutes, and you can say that, then it becomes marketing for the next shoe. But at the end of the day, a lot of these companies aren't looking to play at the you're not looking to play at Nike or Adidas's level, right? You're not looking to become a $1 billion basketball shoe company. You're looking to sell a few $1,000,000 or tens of millions of dollars worth of basketball shoes. And you see a lot of companies, in recent years, like, Brand Black and like Q4 and Li Ning and all of these companies are just taking a little piece of the pie. And it's like, I think that's such a smart way to do it, because it lets you get a feel for the sneakerhead consumer, right? You now have a connection to them, and then you can, kind of like what Tiffany is describing with Grant Hill. If they could take that step and say, okay, here's the retro product, here's why you remember it, you saw it in pop culture, it was on TV all the time, everybody knew that shoe back in the day. But now, what if we did make 10 players in the league, offers, and started developing performance stuff? Because like we talked about on the last episode, at some point, the performance element of it has to become like the reason you're doing it, right? Otherwise, you're destined to just become like a brand that sits on the shelves of Payless shoes. If you don't have that in mind, I don't think that there's much of a future for that, right? It's like a one and done, because like I'm a huge Grant Hill fan. The Grant Hill 2, the 96, whatever you want to call it, is one of my top 5 shoes of all time. And I already have a handful of pairs. I don't really need any more, but I'll probably buy one if they do it in the right way and it's a good shoe. But otherwise, how do you reach the market, the rest of the market?
Yeah, I think it's that performance story is really important, that creates like authenticity. But at the same time, like, I think, Fila especially, they got to be profitable. So somehow they have to figure out a story, an aesthetic, and some sort of performance benefit that resonates with the consumer. And that is not a small task. I mean, Adidas and Nike have it down to a recipe where they can just crank them out all day. But I think the consumers have proven they're tired of wearing the same Kobe's and everything, the same Yeezys that everyone else is wearing. So the interest in these smaller brands is huge right now because they offer a different aesthetic and a different story. So I think it's going to get really interesting.
Yeah, it could be the sneaker world. I think is changing, and there's lots of those small brands just getting a small piece. I don't think people realize how big Nike is, and like if a company does 10 million, does 15 million dollars in product, like that's good. Like people kind of look down on that, but that's good. Like Nike, I believe Nike has a rule, and you don't have to answer this, Tiffany, if you don't want to. But that employees can't wear a shoe brand that makes over $10 million in revenue.
I've never heard that.
Never heard that.
No.
That's what I've been told from several Nike employees, that there's like if a company makes more than $10 million that makes sneakers, that they're not allowed to wear that brand.
That's ridiculous.
That I don't know if that's true. That's just what maybe that's an old wives' tale from the brand, but that's what I've heard from several different employees. So we'll leave that at that. Moving on to our next story. This one I feel is really just getting started. It's been a big story, and there's been a lot of talk about it, and it's about pay for play. A lot of in this situation, it's really affected Adidas, where 3 people that were part of the company are affiliated with the company were convicted and were found guilty for pay for play, for basically paying families to make sure that high profile athletes or basketball recruits would attend certain schools. In this case, it's Kansas, Louisville, and NC State. And it looks like the money was being funneled to their parents to make sure that the kids signed with a certain school or an Adidas sponsored school, and then that they would even sign with agents and sign with like financial planners that were affiliated with the company, and then obviously signing a sneaker deal with that brand at the end of the day. And again, in this situation, it's strictly focused on the people that were connected to Adidas. But this isn't something that's just happening with Adidas athletes. This is something that's happening across the board, and a lot of that stuff is going to be coming out in the future. And I guess this is more of just like an information sort of conversation for you guys and for everyone listening to know that this happens. And I think everyone kind of had the feeling that this happens, but this is more of like a confirmation of, yeah, this is really going on. And I kind of see it in a couple of ways. One, I see it as, partly this is because, kids are playing in college and not being compensated. And a lot of these, they come from poor families. They just have these incredibly talented athletes that have these opportunities in front of them. They don't know how long these opportunities are going to last. The NCAA isn't paying them. Some of them barely have enough food to eat on their meal cards. And when opportunities like this come along, of course, they're going to do something like this because they want to take care of their families. So I think, as bad as it is, I think it's a larger system than just these three people or just Adidas being like, this is what Adidas is doing. I think that there's a larger system at play that needs some changes done.
Yeah, I think the whole college basketball thing is in a really, really tough spot right now. I don't know how they're gonna address these things without it being a very like long, drawn out, and painful process for everyone involved. Mainly because I think in this article they're talking about one of the contracts being a 12-year deal worth $191 million. And when the athletes aren't allowed to make any money, and a lot of the athletes don't come from, a wealthy or well-off background, it's incredibly difficult to go to school without playing sports and stick to it and do good in school. I can't imagine then throwing on the fact that like you're probably practicing and playing and traveling more than the normal student does any type of work related to school. So and to, like you said, like when your family is struggling, coming from a different a background where you want to help your family, it's hard to say no to that opportunity, right? And then so the athletes don't get involved, and the brands or the marketing agents. I mean, there's so many people that could be at fault for this, and there's so many different things that need to be addressed. But specifically, like the brands potentially paying family members to guide a kid to a brand-owned school or a brand-contracted school is just absurd to me. I've been following this for quite a while, and I think that, like you said, this is not just Adidas is the one that got caught. It's kind of like one of those like, who gets caught with their hand in the cookie jar when everybody's taking cookies. There's been stuff on a lot of other stories that I've been reading and listening to about this where, both Nike and Under Armour have had the same kind of things happen, and they essentially are saying like this is just kind of the start of opening up this wound, what it's going to become. And beyond that, it's even crazier that they're like, because that an athlete potentially is going to make a lot of money in the pros, there's this like second-hand or second-tiered part of this story that hasn't been talked about a lot, is that a lot of these guys that actually go through school and are pro-level players and then leave, they're actually handed off kind of to specific money managers that then, again, are taking a percentage of their money. They're supposed to be trusted because they've been working with, whomever coach or, guide or whatever since they were, probably 10 or 12 years old. Like I think like legally it's probably 14 years old, but you know how that works. Like if you're playing basketball at 9 or 10 years old and you're good, everybody's paying attention to you, and you start getting attention from all sorts of different people outside of your family. They start hanging around. You know, we've all seen the stories, the movies about it. We've all seen, you know, heard the Sonny Vaccaro stories, hopefully. You know, those kind of things are just like, it's such big business, and yet the athletes don't get, you know, they get nearly nothing from it, you know. So I think this is, I don't like any of the negativity around it, but I also just think that it's something that its time has come. We've all assumed that this happens, and now people are seeing firsthand that it has been, and now let's figure out a way to do it and do it better.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the core of things, kids are supposed to be going to college for an education, but we all know that changed at some point. But if you're an athlete, an injury, a single injury can end your career, and if you don't have the education, you are likely completely screwed. So, like, I think we need to focus back on the education. At the same time, like, I compare this a little bit to, like, the marijuana industry, right? When it was illegal, everyone said it's going to turn out this way, this way, this way when it became legal. And so it's like everyone knows that all these people are doing it. Mm-hmm. Just let it happen and let's see what shakes out. Like, let's see the impact, because maybe it's not going to be as bad as we thought. So on some level, I think they just let, if the brands want to spend all their money on these college kids, great. I just hope the college kids figure out how to spend their money really wisely, because that, as you mentioned, Nick, that is a massive, massive pitfall for athletes. And, you know, like, what do you do after you're done being a pro athlete? Because pro athletes, like, they don't go into their 40s. They don't go into their 50s. I mean, it's rare cases. So it's like, what are you going to do for the rest of the time, especially if you didn't manage your money? Like, I wish they could get some focus on this, because I don't really care. Nike wants to buy athletes. Adidas wants to buy athletes in college. Good for them. If they're kids that don't have enough money on their food cards, good for them. Like, this helps them out. Like, give them that experience. But at the same time, I don't think anyone helps them manage it correctly.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that's a great point. Financial literacy should be a part of it, especially when you see these guys that know that they're contract bound. Like, that should be part of their education while they're in school. Like, if you know they're going to the league, put tools in place, put tools in their hands, give them the literacy, the financial literacy they need, give them the, you know, help give them the common sense that they need, show them the way. You have these alumni that do this, like, teach these kids the right way to go, so that they, you know, they don't make these decisions and really burn out all their money. Thank God I wasn't a pro level athlete, because I would be broke. This podcast would be my sole source of income if I got money early on. I can tell you guys that now.
Yeah, I would not be in a good place either.
Not at all.
It's not too late, guys. It's not too late.
It's not too late. It's not too late. It's too late. It's definitely too late for me to get to the league. These knees won't make it. Talking about securing the bag, I guess, in a sense, the folks over at Epic Games continue to win. I don't know who or what sort of karma they have, or what blessings or what line they were in when God made them, but they are winning right now. I was not in this line. Epic Games, the creator of Fortnite, raises $1.25 billion. And we read this story over on TechCrunch, because just to let you guys know, we're sophisticated like that on this here podcast. And $1.25 billion in a new round of financing. Here's some quick info on Epic Games. 20 years since Epic Games first released its Unreal game. And with the success of Fortnite, the company has flipped the script, and basically Fortnite has become the biggest game in the world. Like, there's literally no game that probably has more, like, media mentions and more people are playing it than Epic Games. They have $100 million prize pool to support competitive Fortnite gamers. If you've been listening to this show consistently, which I know you have, right, guys? Of course you have. You heard that we talked about parents hiring coaches for their kids for video games. So mom, take that. That's why I was playing Halo all that time, because I wanted to be a pro, not because didn't want to do homework. Just letting you know. And now Fortnite is expanding into other things. Apparently, there's a Fortnite Monopoly and Fortnite Nerf blasters. Like, this game is out of this world. I don't think I've ever seen a game have this much appeal to a generation in a very, very long time. I mean, maybe Nick, do you remember anything? Tiffany, you guys remember any game that's kind of had this sort of grasp on pop culture like this?
I mean, Frogger, right? I mean, Frogger was a big deal. Maybe Mario.
Pong, yeah.
Maybe Mario.
I don't know. The craziest thing about this whole deal after reading this article is that Disney is one of the three groups that are putting this money in and becoming minority stakeholders. So, I mean, that just opens up so many crazy connections and opportunity to. Yeah. I mean, like, my mind just goes wild as to like all of the things that now could happen, or you could potentially see connected to Fortnite in some way, shape, or form, or you have versions of Fortnite, whatever, where it's like, I mean, think about it. Like, that's the whole Star Wars stuff. That's the whole Disney catalog. Like, now it's just like, oh, I just needed to talk to, the guys on the other side of the hall.
I'm not going to lie. I'm going to be Triceratops for Halloween. That's a Fortnite character, right? So
amazing. So here's the thing. Here's the thing that really blows me away. So they raised $1.25 billion. That's a lot of money. A lot of money. But the people that put in that money, they're only going to be minority shareholders in the company. Yeah. Like, how much money is this company worth if someone invested $1.25 billion and they're still only a minority holder, a minority shareholder? Like, if someone paid me $1.25 billion for this podcast, I want you guys to know right now that I'd probably have outside the box tattoos all over my body. I just putting it out there.
But you can't. I mean, if you followed the Fortnite numbers very much, I mean, in May they made $318 million. I mean, they're making several, probably double-digit billions per year. So it kind of makes sense that 1.25 is a minority shareholder. But like, when are they going public? Like, and when are we playing Fortnite, guys?
We need to. I think we need to set that up. We need to have an outside the box Fortnite live stream, so people can see how bad I really am at the game.
Yeah, and we can have listeners be the fourth player on our team. How about that?
I would love that.
There we go.
So if you're interested in playing Fortnite with us, let us know down in the comments down below, and let's hook this up. One of these weeks, we're going to go on break pretty soon, and during that break, we'll set this up where we can just get on the sticks and get some Fortnite in instead of doing our jobs, which is to make a podcast. So we're totally down for that. Procrastination is the name of the game. But now we've come to my favorite part of the podcast. The reason why I'm here. The whole intention of this podcast, which is to bring people together. So we've been posting on social. If you don't follow us over on the Instagrams or the Twitters, you can find us at Outside Pods. And a friend of the show, I'm going to call him Kicks with V, finally asked for some relationship advice. And so he wants to know. He says, I'm throwing my hat into the ring here. I'm single and open to meeting a lady / sneakerhead, preferably Nike. Okay, he has a bit of a bias. Can you advise me on the best places to meet these ladies and a good approach? So, Tiffany, I'll let you correct everything that I'm going to say right now. But here's what I'm going to tell you. I say you work out a lot. Take off your shirt, go to a restaurant, find a lady that you like, and you go, you, me, couple, come. And that, I think that's going to be the magic. That's going to be the magic.
Oh, my God.
Or there's more options here. You wear your best pair of sneakers, and you let her catch you tying your shoe, and she's obviously going to ask about your shoes because they're going to be amazing because you're a sneakerhead. And that's when you turn on the charm. You say something like, oh, they're not as beautiful as you. Bam! Bam!
Oh, that is solid.
Bam.
That line's solid, but everyone knows sneakerheads don't tie their shoes. So right there, she knows he's not a real sneakerhead,
yeah.
so she's out.
But she may not be a sneakerhead. See, this is the thing.
I think he wants one.
He shows her. He wants a lady / sneakerhead, kind of, preferably someone that's into Nikes. But he could show her the way. Long as she has some Nikes in her collection, he could show her the way. He could be like, hey, look, this is my passion. You think I'm passionate about sneakers? How passionate do you think I'll be about you? Oh God, I'm on a roll tonight. Goodness.
Hey yo.
Oh, I'm so good at this. So that's what I'm gonna throw out there. So Tiffany, if you have an alternate way you think he should approach this, or find the best places to meet ladies, you can throw that out there. But I feel like I've filled the cup already.
I mean, I think we have a new segment called Pickup Lines with Jacques.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. So we're gonna go with my way: work out or just wear nice shoes.
I mean, you could just wear shoes. Like that's it. Just
I'm
shoes.
just saying, these are options, people. We're here to lead you into the direction of love. This is the love podcast. We're no longer outside the box. We're entering into the love section of the Outside the Box podcast, and I want to get you connected to people.
We're inside the heart.
We're inside the heart. We're not outside. We're not outside the box. We're inside the heart. So, and now look, people, this relationship advice, it doesn't just have to go to Kicks with the V. I can help you too. I can lead you in the direction of love. I can take you to the place where Cupid lives and show you how to be best friends. If you want an arrow to strike your heart, Outside the Box podcast is where you come. We want you to love so hard it hurts.
Oh my! What have I gotten myself into?
I'm so excited about
this.
I'm so excited. Thank you, Kicks with
I would take a completely different approach,
goes.
though. I would actually take advantage of Halloween and dress up as like a solo sneaker looking for your pair, right? No? No?
Oh my God! Oh, we're levels. Levels here.
I don't know.
No.
So one shoe. You're gonna dress up as one shoe, hoping to find the other shoe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all I can come up with in such short notice.
Okay.
Look, Tiffany. If you feel like you have a better way to do this, let me know. But I'm just saying.
I mean, I would probably roll into like some sneaker stores and maybe coffee shops near them and see what chicks are hanging out that have interesting sneakers on. I mean, I would simplify it quite a bit. But if you threw out one of those pickup lines, I'd probably laugh and it would be charming.
That's some. See, there's a great philosopher by the name of Sean Carter, also known as Jay-Z. And he has this line where he says, I gas her with the wit and the charm. And I'm just saying, Jay-Z's opened the door for you. And Jacques Slade has led you through. So, this is what we do here at the Outside the Box podcast. We're here to give you relationship advice. So if you want relationship advice, if you need some leadership, if you need a guiding hand, if you need a matchmaker, you know where to go. Outside the pause. Hit us on Instagram or hit us on Twitter or leave a comment down below, and we will happily share the information that you need to make that love connection. All right, final story of the day here. Rich Paul is changing the game, literally, when it comes to basketball, and he has an athlete that signed to him And that athlete has signed a deal for $1 million, even though he is not in the league. The athlete I'm talking about is Darius Bazley, and he's signed a $1 million intern deal with New Balance. So the story of Bazley is a little long. So he was originally supposed to go to Syracuse. So Darius is a one-and-done athlete, just FYI. So that's where how a lot of this story develops. He's supposed to go to Syracuse. He committed to Syracuse, actually. Decommitted to Syracuse and was like, nah, son. I'm going to go to the G League and play in the G League for a year, and then I'll just go to the draft. So the NBA doesn't allow you to go directly to the draft out of high school. You do have to do 1 year, whether anywhere, apparently, and then you can go into the league. And Darius committed. It's like, hey, I'll just go to the G League, then I go to the draft. However, as of this week, that changed as well, because he decided, I'm not even going to go to the G League. I'm going to get an internship. So see, there is no rule that you have to play basketball somewhere for a year. You just have to basically take a year off. And it looks like Rich Paul is finding his way to secure the bag through this little bit of a loophole that will allow Darius to take an internship with New Balance for a year and get paid $1 million, and then he will go to the league and be in the draft when the draft comes up next June. So the thing I love about this is it's gonna force the hand of the NBA to revisit the one and done rule, to whether athletes can come directly out of high school and go directly to the league. The second part of it that I like is that it's going to force the NBA to also reevaluate the G League. Right now, athletes that go to the G League are only getting about $35,000 on the top end for the whole year. And obviously, that's not enough money for people to live on, especially when you only work a couple months out of the year. Like, that money is gone after taxes and all that stuff. So I think it's going to force them to up the salary of the players in the G League. And I guess the third thing really is it's going to force the NCAA to really start to address how they compensate these players that have these opportunities to make all of this money, especially when your college, as we said earlier, is getting like hundreds of millions of dollars in apparel deals and sneaker deals from these sneaker brands. But these players are worried about whether they're going to have food to eat at the end of the semester, just because they have to be cautious with their meal card, or they can't meet an athlete because they can't meet a superstar or something because it's figured as some sort of compensation or an unfair advantage. So all three of those things are going to have to change if more deals like this pop up.
Yeah, I think this is really awesome, and it's kind of perfect timing with the other stuff going on, right? It's really going to make both the NBA and the NCAA just kind of reevaluate all of these things, and it's long overdue, right? You know, they changed it. You know, I don't remember when it was, 2005 or something. You know, after LeBron came into the league, it changed and said you've got to go to school for 1 year, or not school, but you can't enter the draft as a high school or after high school, which just doesn't make any sense. If that's what you're blessed with, then you should just be able to go do your thing and make your money and become a professional athlete. And I think this is a much cooler way of, you know, changing the game in a sense, because it almost sets him up to do something like we were talking about earlier with Grant Hill, where like this could become the lifetime deal for him. It says in the article there's, you know, potentially $14 million on the table for him from New Balance. So, you know, I think this could be a huge opportunity for somebody to learn the business of footwear. It makes them better by being involved with the brand, and then their shoes, when it comes time for them to get a signature or play in shoes or whatever, is going to be better because they've learned other aspects of the business that athletes that just jump straight into a contract as like an entry level player on Nike or Adidas are not going to have that experience. So this is just kind of win-win for the players, and, you know, props to you know, them for making it happen, and for New Balance on taking a chance, because it definitely is different.
Yeah, I just don't understand the New Balance part. Like, that's the part that I'm lost on. Like, what is New Balance doing? Are they planning to come back in basketball? I mean,
probably
That's very interesting.
in the 80s and 90s, they had, a solid number of shoes that were out there, performance, and I think that, like I said earlier, I think that there's a lot more opportunity in the basketball world right now to make footwear and to just get a little piece of this big pie that's out there, compared to every other time in history that I can think of, because it's the basketball shoes have fallen off so much in terms of the cool factor off the court, and that means everybody has the potential to throw their hat in the ring and say, I want a piece of this, and I'm going to do something a little bit different, and we're kind of seeing that with Puma, even on the technology side with their cushioning, right? Like, I think that is at least a step outside of their comfort zone. It might not be too crazy compared to other brands, but getting them out of their comfort zone and stepping into basketball opens a whole ton of other opportunities for them to try different things, and who knows where it can take them.
Yeah, I think the only thing that would worry me is, what if he does this year off and he is in the first game of the next season and he gets hurt. I mean, what happens then? What are the injury? Because he won't have an education. He will have 1 year experience in footwear. I mean, I would be massively worried about that if I was his mom, I guess.
Yeah. Well, his deal guarantees him $1 million regardless of what happens.
Yeah, but $1 million, he'll blow that in the first year of being a pro.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, that's true. But I would imagine that Rich Paul has some things in the mix that kind of protect the kid and help him through this, at least these first couple of years, I would hope, especially with the sort of clients that Rich Paul has, like LeBron and Ben Simmons, and who else? I think he has a couple of other players as well, John Wall. So I think he would probably put the moves in place to kind of make sure those guys that he's taking care of. I think, like Tiffany, my first thought was like New Balance. That's such a weird connection. But reading a little further down in this article, like a lot of players that are in Basley's situation, they just go and play abroad for that first year instead of going to college or playing in the G League. So it looks like Terrence Ferguson went to Australia. Emmanuel Mudiay went to China. Dante Exum, he just worked out with private trainers for a year until he became eligible for the draft. So it seems like a lot of these guys that know that they'll be able to make it into the league right away are starting to really find their own ways, or find these alternative ways to make sure that they still get into the league, but also that they don't expose themselves to the NCAA or expose themselves to the G League. Let's be honest, at $35,000, like, the G League is not very enticing to anyone.
No.
Except for people that basically have graduated from college and necessarily didn't get drafted, and it's like this is their second chance. But for these younger guys, that this is their like, they know they're going to the league, or they're highly ranked and have a very good chance of going to the league. There's no point in playing in the G League. Like, go to Australia, make money. Go to China, make money. Or just chill at home. Like, obviously, most of these guys have gotten paid under the table anyway from a sneaker brand. So hey, they're making money anyway.
Yeah, we just found that out.
We just found it out. So it's all kind of coming around anyway. But
we'll be fine.
But what's interesting to think about is a lot of people would never have the opportunity to internship directly on like New Balance's digital or marketing team. So even that straight out of high school is a huge jump compared to what a lot of people have as far as opportunities straight out of high school, in my opinion. So even on the business side, hopefully, hopefully he's doesn't get hurt. He has a successful NBA career, and this is a story that goes for, a couple of decades. But if something were to happen, he's definitely in a pretty good position as far as like foot in the door, find a job within the company. Yeah. And who knows? Like, I think at that point too, like if you have something happen where you're not going to be able to play, you're probably going to consider going back to college anyway, right? So, Or I'd hope.
Yeah,
at
that's
least.
true. But even at New Balance as an intern, I mean, he still has to be practicing how many hours a week to stay in tip-top shape to prepare for his first year in the NBA. I mean, he's still got to be practicing several hours a day, I would imagine, or at least training and working out. So, how much actual time is he going to be an intern, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, most of these guys are training probably 3 to 4 hours a day, are practicing 3 to 4 hours a day. So, I mean, it's definitely going to be a part-time gig as far as the internship goes, especially if he's training every day and getting in shape the way he needs to at least maintain his shape. But, on a point that Rich Paul made in the article was that, he's not going to do anything as far as training goes that's really going to get him prepared for the league. Like, the league is going to going to break you and put in, and really weed you out. So a lot of it, he's going to do training, but like his real, like the test of the fire is really going to come when he gets into the league and starts playing in the league. We'll see. I think it's exciting. I think it's revolutionary in a sense, and I think it really pushes the boundaries of creatively thinking, especially when it comes to these players and the options that they have to show players that there's more options out there for you, that you don't have to do, the traditional routes, that you can find your own ways to the NBA, or find your own ways to, I guess in this situation, secure that $1 million bag. So New Balance, if you're listening, I'm a great swimmer, and I don't know if there's a swim BA, but I'm down for you guys to pay me $1 million until one pops up. I could be your lead athlete for the swim BA, so I'm all for that.
Are you saying you're into swimsuit development? Is that?
I am swimsuit development, R&D. Yeah, we can go experimental. Like I'm all for it. Balance. Let's really push the limits and show the world what we're made of. So I'm here for it. Please write the check to Jacques Slade. It's JACQUES. It's spelled the French way. Anyway, with that being said, folks, I want to thank you guys for joining us for the latest episode of the Outside the Box podcast. It's the podcast where we talk about sneakers, we talk about video games, we talk about basketball, and more importantly, we talk about love, because love. That's what it's all about. If you want to follow me on the internets, you can follow me at Kusto, which is KUSTOO, and that's on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Snapchat, and as always on Tinder. So swipe right, you holler at your boy. But this show would not be what it is with just me. I'm obviously a bad influence. You've heard me talk a lot on this podcast. There's two people here that really right this ship and really give you the information, the knowledge, the insight that you need, and that's Nick and Tiffany. Nick, go ahead and tell them where they can find you.
Nick Engvall, NickEngvall on all platforms, and at Sneaker History on all platforms. But really, I'm just kind of here for relationship advice, as I said before, and clearly mine was not good. So Tiffany, let them know how they can find you, and
you can find me on Instagram and YouTube at Tiffany Beers, TiffanyBeers. And I really feel like we need you guys to chime in with some more relationship questions. I think one question isn't enough to see the depth of what Jacques can provide to you. So bring them. We want more than we can handle. We could do a whole show on it, frankly. So
yeah, I think we're gonna have a new tagline here. It's gonna be Outside the Box Podcast, a relationship show that talks about sneakers. So we're here for you people. Again, make sure you follow us, Outside Pods. That's going to be on Instagram and over on the Twitters. And obviously, we're on SoundCloud, Google Play, and on iTunes as well. We appreciate you guys. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your feedback. We appreciate you and love you so much. You guys make this show what it is. With that being said, we'll talk to you guys soon. You guys have a great, great week. Peace.